Last Thursday, we met as the Des Moines, Iowa User Group, and we had an amazing presentation on architectural mindset. And Abby Douglas spoke on this topic, and this was really cool to me. It was really rewarding in some ways for me, just because I remember working with Abby many years ago when she was first getting into Salesforce, and to see her career and how she has done, it's just phenomenal. She blew me away with this presentation. I do apologize. I missed hitting the record button for like the first 3 minutes or so of her presentation. So we're going to jump in just a little bit late into the presentation, but it is so good. I didn't want to not present it here for you today. Listen to Abby Douglas talk.
It goes back to you're fine. Being responsive goes back to delivering on your promises. So respond promptly to those emails, calls, requests for emails. Again, I suck at this, trying to get better. We're working. And then consistent performance. Continually demonstrate competence and expertise in your domain. This is where being an architect and that technical side comes into play. And then manage expectations. So don't, I have a tendency to do this. I'm a dreamer and I'm a thinker. And so I'm always creative and trying to come up with these awesome ideas. And then people automatically get excited about those ideas. You need to kind of throttle that a little bit and keep whatever you're working with them on, keep it to a realistic expectation. So within my team, we work on a lot of really big things. So going through and setting the expectations of this is MVP or minimum viable product, and then this is what could be iterations and where we can go with that tool. So as an architect, you have to be the one to set those kind of milestones within the builds. You need to kind of do this is MVP. This is what I can deliver you right now. But over the next 5 years, this is where we can get you. And then personal connections. Just be able to create that common link between the people that you're working with. So then when things get hard, you have something to fall back on. Next one is customer-centric technology. We are building tools for people. So we need to keep that in mind. I always tell my teams, we can build the most beautiful back-end technology in the entire world, but if it's not user-friendly and it doesn't meet the needs of the business, then it's worthless. So with that, do your research. Take the time to understand what your customers need. So when I say customers, I mean users. They're your customer. So take the time to figure out what it is they need. Do surveys, do research, do ride-alongs, interviews, whatever it takes to really understand what they're needing. Because a lot of times when you're doing requirement sessions, the users will tell you the happy path or the path that they think it goes or the ideal scenario. But in all reality, it's not that. When you go sit with a customer service or customer success person, they are doing a completely different workflow than what their manager thinks they're doing. So ride along with them and don't just ride along with the highest performer, because that's usually what that leader is going to give you is the high performer on their team. Ride along with, the low performers, the mid-range performers, the high performers, because you're going to get a really good view. And also you're going to probably find those people that are lazy. They're my favorite people to look at because they find the shortcuts within the application. So trying to find those people, it's gold because they show you things on what you built that you have no idea that actually it did that. Next would be defining personas. So this is really important in large organizations, and it's starting to become really important in smaller companies as well, is defining what a user or a role does. So I'm going to look at customer success, and I'm going to use these guys a lot because we're working on a project with them right now. But going in and really figuring out how they use the application, what their job actually is, and then what systems do they interact with? Because as an architect, again, you don't just look at Salesforce, you look at the entire ecosystem of that user. And so building those out and being able to then reference back to them at a later date when you have other projects is super helpful because then you're like, oh, this is customer success. Got it. Setting clear objectives. This goes back to building trust, realistic, and set those milestones and then meet them. Obviously, with software development, things are going to slide. They always slide. So just being realistic with that, and then also being clear with your communication that things have slipped and why they've slipped. And then user experience, really important to me. I have a background in graphic design, so I'm always very intrigued in the user experience. Things that I do to kind of help with this are using tools like Sketch or Figma and building out those different screens or components that the users would interact with so that they can see that. A lot of times stakeholders, they don't have the imagination that we do. So when we're saying, hey, we'll have this screen and then you'll put in some information here and then you'll click next and then you have this drop down and then it will do all these cool things in the background and then spit this out. They're like, what? And then they just kind of glaze over. So being able to give them, be proactive and give them kind of that visual and walk them through that is super important, because then you're not doing a whole bunch of rework when they're like, well, that wasn't what I wanted. And then feedback loops. Constantly ask for information from our user, from the user base or your business stakeholders. You know, how is this looking? Are you happy? Are we meeting your goals? Are we meeting your expectations? What can we do better? A lot of people get nervous about negative feedback. I thrive on it. I want to know what I'm not doing that I could easily do or do better. Because if I don't know, then I'm not going to do it. Agile development. We're building software. Like, it's continual iterations on that. So I love to use the term MVP. What is the minimum work that we can do to get this shipped out to you? And then from there, get you using it and then iterate on it and kind of have you drive the roadmap going forward. And then accessibility and inclusion. So fun fact, 1 in 12 men are colorblind. Sorry, I'm not trying to pick on you guys. It's just true. 1 in 200 women are. So like, we're cool. It's fine. But being able to create designs that meet the needs of our users. So you have to be really conscientious of the colors you're using and the styles you're using. And then also the fact that, you know, some of these wonderful features like confetti, hate confetti, but that's confetti that you can use, like that can trigger anxiety for people. Like, please, like, don't use it. But that big health awareness right here. Just don't use it. But like, be conscientious of those things. I highly recommend the user experience designer certification with Salesforce, because it really gets you thinking about those things and trying to dive into how do I make this better and just one step better for my users. And I use the Lightning Design System a lot in kind of my references. My team gets really pissed at me. So I send them links to things. I'm like, hey, here's the blueprint. Can you make this? But like going out there and seeing how Salesforce does it and then trying to kind of mirror that a little bit within your org, it's going to make a much more seamless design for your users. And then they're not going to be able to tell what is actual Salesforce and what is this customization that, you know, my Salesforce team put in place to make our jobs easier. Makes a cohesive design. And then integrations. Again, architects, think about the whole ecosystem. And it's not just the go-to-market, it's everything outside of that, Okta, ADP, everything. At ESO, we spend over $9 million a year on SaaS applications. That's 40 plus applications that we use for our users. I need to think about every single one of them when designing these applications. And then continuous improvement. That goes back to agile development. MVP, iterations. Constantly just keep iterating on everything you're doing. It's a design. And then, you know, just focus on the needs and the preferences of your customers. That's going to get you so far. Actually listen to them. Early in my career, I liked to design in a bubble. And it caught me a lot of times because like I'd show it to my users. This is so cool. And they're like, yeah, that's great. So don't get caught like I did. Jennifer, next slide. Next, long-term, short-term. This is a battle that I just got done fighting with my organization. So we previously used TaskRay. It's a project management implementation tool. costs about $55,000 to $60,000 for us annually. We wanted to bring in and build our own application in-house on Salesforce to manage all of our implementations. It was scheduled to be a 7-month-long project. This is where short-term and long-term gains are really important. You have to be a finance person. You have to be, a advocate for Salesforce, and you have to be an integration person. You have to do so many things to get these projects forward. So first step, understand the goals of the business. So whenever I have an idea, I like to go meet with kind of that mid-level management. So think manager, senior manager level, and just float it by them and see what happens. Because they're the ones that they're high enough to make a decision, but they're close enough to the work to actually have a real world feel of what's going on. People at like the director and above level, they just have this like idea that everything is rainbows and gumdrops and so meet with them, float the idea by them, and then if they react great to it, then move forward with it. Educate your stakeholders. So keep them bring data, use cases, examples, things like that to demonstrate to them the why. So tying this back, we knew that there was a lot of issues with using TaskRig in our Salesforce work. So we knew that it caused a lot of issues post-sale and creating of the projects for that team to use. So being able to show them the data around, hey, with TaskRig, all of these issues are happening and our users aren't happy. They're not efficient. So then that brings us to the ROI. Become friends with finance. That is your most important job as a Salesforce person. Become friends with your CFO, become friends with your accountants and the people that make the budgets, because they can help you figure out, that long-term investment in the platform, but also the ROI. So they have this crazy brain, and I have horrible with numbers, but they can help you build the ROI in that use case for doing additional features or functionality on the platform. And if the ROI is there, every C-suite person is going to look at you and be like, yes, please save me money. And then highlight scalability and flexibility and functionality and all of these ability words. But show that you can build systems and applications that will be flexible enough for them to kind of take the business to the next level. Because every organization has a 5 and 10-year plan. So being able to build a platform for them to kind of iterate on and be able to take that business to the next level easily and efficiently. When I say efficiently, I mean cheap. Benchmarks other solutions. So as much as I hate Microsoft Dynamics and HubSpot and other applications, know what they're doing. Keep an eye out on the technology that they're bringing, because every renewal, the C-suite is going to ask the question, so have you thought about HubSpot? And have you not been here the last 10 years? Because we have been working on this forever. So just be aware of those and anticipate those conversations early and build business cases or use cases. So PowerPoint is my friend as an architect. Constantly, I'm in PowerPoint more than I am in Salesforce, actually. And it's building those business cases and those presentations to get in front of groups to show the benefits of the applications and the work that we are doing. And then next, promote innovation. Think about that next big thing that you guys can be working on. So while my team currently is working on rebuilding the entire customer support, experience, I'm already 2 and 3 projects ahead of them, thinking about how are we going to build a better integration with NetSuite, or how are we going to manage the lead lifecycle management. So keep thinking out further than what you're working on today will make you truly successful. And then anticipate objections. So be prepared for the naysayers or the people that are going to push back and say worst words in the entire world. Well, we've always done it this way. Be prepared for those comments and be able to have the rebuttals kind of ready to say why is your solution the right way to go versus doing what we're currently doing, which is, always work. So let's just keep doing it. And then just the main fact, you are probably the only one in the room who has the knowledge to understand the impacts of the decisions you're making today and what they will do 5 and 10 years from now. So lean into that as much as possible. You guys are the expert, and people look to you for advice and decision making. Complexity is dead. Tech debt. Worst thing in the entire world. So I like to draw the conclusion of tech debt is the same as actual debt. So you go through and sorry, lost my train of thought. Somebody's texted me. We build software, and every day we're constantly iterating on that software, and we're making decisions on whether to do the short-term fix right now or do the right thing that's going to help us in the long run. So there's a few things that you can do for this. Refactoring, it's the easiest thing there is. So a lot of us with older orgs, we have a lot of process builder, we have a lot of workflow, and it's there, and it's messy. So refactoring would be taking all of that and transitioning it into process builder, or putting it into, an Apex trigger with a handler, and being able to rearrange that automation to make it more efficient, or a lighter load or a cheaper load on the system. And automation, wherever possible, automate things, make everybody's life easier. Just if it's a repetitive task, or you can put it on a whiteboard and map it out, automate it. And then testing and QA. So most of the orgs I've been in, they're very small. We don't have QA. It doesn't exist. Testing, it's put on us. Rely on your users, rely on your stakeholders to do that testing for you, because I know how to break what I build. It is what it is. I know exactly where the pitfalls are. I know what to test to get the right outcome. Our users, they don't. Those lazy people, I love so much. They will take the shortest path possible, which probably will end up breaking what you build. So, getting them in to do that testing. And then documentation. I hate it with passion, but you need to do it. You probably will only be at the company that you're at for 2, 3, 5 years. There's going to be somebody after you, and we don't want to make them an archaeologist, because that's not what they are. We don't want them to have to go through all of this code and automation to try to figure out what the heck is happening. I come into my org, I've been here 7 months now, and it is about 11 years old, and it has a lot of tech debt and a lot of redundancy. On the product object alone, we have 3 fields that mark is legacy. Which one do I use? I don't know. So I have to look to Carissa or Jennifer or somebody else to go be that archaeologist and figure out what the heck is going on. So make life easier for the next person. Document what you're doing. Make it simple. Make it understandable. Put pictures. Make it so that the next person can come in and understand what you're doing, and it'll be super easy. And then continuous improvement. Again, MVP, land and expand. Keep doing that. If you do that, you will be super successful. So then next piece is be a strategic partner. It goes back to cultivating trust and being reliable. You want to be a partner with the business. So understanding them, understanding their goals, and understanding their missions and objectives. So as a Salesforce person or architect, it's important that you know Salesforce, but it's more important that you understand what your business does and how they sell their products, how they make money, how they, for us, help the community. Make sure that you understand all of those pieces. So it's really, what I've done that's been really successful is having people aligned to functional areas, where it's what's called a matrix organization. And having, like Carissa here, she is super smart at marketing and sales. So let's lean into that and really have her understand every aspect of the business there. Next, we have, my other person who's super savvy with customer support, success, and implementation. So lean into that as well. So start to get them to be that subject matter expert. Like, as much as I don't like numbers and I'm horrible at math, finance and legal and security, I'm really good at that. So I lean into that section quite heavily. And creating those SMEs within your areas or within you is best decision. Align to the business goals. So very similar to understanding the business, support their goals, because then you're going to be able to do those projects for them and do them well. And then participate in strategic sessions. Make sure that you become friends with the right people so that you can get a seat at the table. It happens so often that the business will start to solution for us. And it's like, hey, like customer service manager, senior managers, the worst. They're really good at designing this software. Like, oh my gosh, so I have these users that manage this group of support cases. So I want you to create a new queue and a new email address so that all of those support tickets will go to that email address and go to that queue and it'll be perfect. And you're like, time out, back to trace the train up. That's not scalable. So becoming friends with them so that they instinctually know, oh, I have an idea. I'm going to get Abby in the room. We're going to talk it through so then you can start to direct them in the right direction. And then speak their language. Finance people, they have worse language. ARR, ACV, ACP, whatever the hell it is. They have all these acronyms. So learn the language. Try to understand what it is they're talking about. So then when you are in those strategic sessions, you can keep up. And then offer innovative solutions. And this goes back to everything else I've been saying. Keep up on what is out there in the market. Understand kind of what mapping tools are out there. Understand what ERPs are out there. Signing tools. Like I love to spend time going out to the marketplace and just figuring out like what's new that I don't know about, and then just start digging around. Fortunately, you're going to get spammed by a whole bunch of salespeople. Just ignore them. So that goes into staying up on emerging technologies. Collaborate across departments. So when you're meeting with the finance team and they have all these great ideas, and you're like, oh, this idea over here could help these guys over here, bring them in together, start to build that collaboration. And that's ultimately going to bring down the organizational silos and be proactive, anticipate what they're going to need. So bring forward ideas. If you see that we're getting a ton of errors in a flow that's calculating ARR, go to finance and try to figure out what's going on and be proactive with those things. And then communicate the why. Feel like a mom whenever I have to deal with this one, because constantly everyone wants to know why we're doing what we're doing. Why does it take so long? Why do I have to spend more money? Support that. Lean into it. Foster understanding with them. If you foster the understanding, you'll have greater engagement and communication with the business. And then build alignment. By building alignment, you're going to avoid miscommunication or kind of that time when in a meeting, the person just kind of like glazes over and then just shuts down. So if they don't understand what you're meaning or saying, communicate that why so they don't get to that point that is like, I don't know, I'm checking out of this meeting. And then encourage ownership, encourage them to want to be part of this process and want to make things better. And then facilitate adoption to change. So be that person that is walking them through that enablement and communication. So at the end, built this application, built this tool. It's fantastic. Be with them as they adopt that change within their organization. So as software developers, it's so easy for me to say, like, I don't own training, I don't own communication, I don't own the data, but be part of that with them and making sure that they kind of take it across that finish line. So many times, prime example, yesterday, Carissa, she had an issue. I'm picking on her because she's right here. But she developed this fantastic solution for our contract operations team. She got it out the door. She did, not my problem, hypercare. It's fine. And then they come back to us and they're like, this doesn't work because training. They did not understand the application well enough to know how to enable it. So be part of that with them to make sure that it's being used the way it's supposed to be used. So I know it sucks. Hypercare, do it. If you don't know what hypercare, I'm happy to talk about it. And then improve communication and collaboration. So with this one, communicate the why and be ready for the feedback, be ready to anticipate their questions so that you can help them. Next. And then organizational silos. This is really common in any organization, but more mature organizations. This is really common where contract operations, they do their thing, and this is what they do, and this is all I do, and this is all I care about. We, as Salesforce architects, people, job is to break down those silos and get people working together and get people working efficiently and on the same goals and same processes. To do this, establish a shared vision. Seems easy, but it is a little difficult. You need to get the people in the room and get them talking. Even if there's conflict between the groups, get them together talking and be that moderator. You're a therapist, you're a moderator as a Salesforce architect. You're constantly trying to take what one team is trying to fix and get the other team to understand the why it needs to be fixed and why it's important today. So get them together, share that vision, and then have empathy. I'm horrible with empathy. I'm a green person, so I'm analytical and I see, strategy and optimization and efficiency. And blue people who have feelings, it's hard. So being able to take a step back and understand that they're people and this is their day-to-day job that you're messing with, understand that, relate to them, and use, your crucial conversation skills to understand, say, I understand that this is happening for you. Let's work to make it better. And how can I be of service to you? And then executive support goes all the way back to the very beginning. You need them on your side. Be friends with finance, be friends with your CRO, be friends with, your chief revenue officer. Be friends with your chief sales officer, whoever you have, be friends with them. Because they're the ones that are going to fight for you when you're not in the room. And then get regular feedback, that feedback loop. Consistently check back with your team member or with your business stakeholders and your users, see how things are working. And then lead by example. Just have integrity, have empathy, be, that professional in the room when things get tough. There's a really good book, Avoid Feeding the Elephant. And it's a project management book. I suggest everybody reading it. But it helps you when times get tough in organizations to have the ability to step back and be a third-party Switzerland type person to help them through these tough conversations when bringing down the silos. And then make them part of the solution. Bring them in, have the conversations as a group, even though they're going to be hard, have the conversations. Then the next one, I'm going to go to this. Design matters. So this is UX stuff, favorite. Make sure that you understand the purpose and the objective. So when you take on a new project, try to understand it. Don't just go with assumptions, because we all know what happens when you assume. I can't say the first word because I told everybody I wouldn't cuss. So
I've already cussed, my friend.
Did I?
Yes. You want the count? You're at, you got 2 hells, 1 damn, and 1 shit.
Oh, those aren't. So what's the purpose? So why are we doing what we're doing? So make sure you understand that so that you can effectively build the right solution. Know your audience. Executives, they don't care about the technical stuff. They don't care at all. Unless you're talking to the chief technology officer, then he's going to get into the weeds. Then he's not going to have any idea what you're talking about. He's going to be talking about data structures over here and back-end servers. And you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. But they don't know what they don't know. Don't get them into the weeds. Talk about the vision and the ROI and how this will help transform the business. Don't get them talking about flow or apex because their eyes are going to glaze over and they're not going to listen. And then understand what the functional and non-functional requirements are. Functional being the business side. What is it that they're trying to accomplish? How will they be using it? Non-functional means back-end scalability, performance. If I do this, what's going to happen to the system? Is it going to tax the back-end? So when page loads, so that's a huge thing with Lightning. Page just load really.
It's a slow.
So understanding how those pages work and what you should be putting behind tabs and what you should be presenting up front is really important because it's the way that Salesforce loads and it performs. So understanding the non-functional requirements. Then how will data be handled? Data. So front end, starting in NetSuite, or not NetSuite, Marketo, data coming in all the way to the very end. How are we handling that data? As a customer, it doesn't always start in Salesforce. It starts way before it in this list upload from marketing into Marketo without half the data. And then you're like, what the hell is this? So being able to understand, that is not a bad word. Able to understand how to handle the data is super important. Also, the very end with reporting. That is where the executives are going to find the most value in what you're doing. They don't care about the user interface or what Joe, the salesperson, is doing. They care about this dashboard over in Power BI that's managing all of our sales forecasts. That's what they care about. So understanding how the data is going to look downstream is super important. And then maintainability and extendability. So how can you, I lost where I'm at. I suck. Yes, okay. Being able to understand when adding this new functionality, how it's going to affect the kind of long-term maintenance of Salesforce. So bringing it back to the brand new customer onboarding tool we built. So now we go from TaskRay over to what we're calling Prestige, which is a new tool. We now have to maintain the backend. Before, we just paid $60,000 and TaskRay managed it. Now we have to maintain it. So being able to understand what that is and how much extra work it's going to take. So make sure that you kind of account for that when you're doing these big projects. Like it may take 0.25 FTE or half a full-time employee to be able to maintain this. Be transparent, speak up, make sure that the business understands that that's going to happen because you have to make sure that you're keeping your reliability and the trust with them. You build this super cool thing and you can't maintain it, then you've lost trust and they don't want to do anything with you anymore. So making sure that they have clear information and they understand what the long-term effect is on what they're building. And then dependencies, integration points. Where are we getting our data? Where are we sending our data? Are we transforming our data? Making sure you understand that piece. So opportunities, that's the main one that integrates with everything because everybody cares about sales data. And so understanding that if a salesperson puts in this opportunity at close wins, where's that data going after that? And is it being transformed when it gets there? Are you transforming it in Salesforce first, or is it transforming in your ETL tool and then going to NetSuite? Transform to NetSuite. Making sure you understand all of that and have a clear vision of how the data is going to look throughout the entire lifespan of that data. And then the UX design, making sure that you understand what it is your user is looking for. Really good example that we've had to deal with frequently is flows. You can put them anywhere and everywhere. Is it going to be embedded on the page? Is it going to be behind a button? Is it just going to happen automatically? Making sure that your user knows, making sure that you understand what your user needs and how they're going to be interacting with it. So constantly kind of bring forward those sketch drawings or the Figma drawings or the process maps so they get a clear visual of how their process is going to look in the future. And change is inevitable. Change. This is MVP iterations. We're constantly evolving. Salesforce is always changing. Businesses are always changing. Being able to kind of stay up with this on here's current state and here's vision state. I always have two different maps. So here's where we are today. Here's where I want to go. We did this project. Now here is current state. This is where I want to go. And then there's the newer vision state. Keep that in mind with all of the projects that you're doing, so that at a drop of a hat, if someone says like, hey, what do we have next? What are we thinking? You can pull this document up or pull this drawing up, whatever it may be, and have a good conversation about it. The ways to handle change effectively is making sure that the code or the solutions that you're building are modular, or they are componentized and that you can reuse them. Prime example of this is error handling. I know we're going to talk about it a little later, but error handling, you're going to need it everywhere in Salesforce. So why don't you make it a function that you can reuse later and keep going back to that same error handling flow or automation. So then if you ever have to make a change to it, make the one change that changes everywhere. And then make it so that it's easy for your users to understand. Make it simple. Flexibility, making sure that you can reuse things and that it is flexible enough to handle any any project that you're going to throw at it. So error handling, we're going to go back to that. Making sure that it has all of the different variables available so that you can reuse it in any automation that you potentially need going forward. And then understanding dependency management. We're going to wing this one. Dependency management. Understanding how what you're doing today can affect something else, or what you're doing currently today would potentially affect something that you previously did. So understanding how everything is connected in Salesforce or outside of Salesforce, super important. And then consistent naming and code conventions. Take the time to write down how you want your labels to be in Flow and in Apex, making sure that you're using them consistently. A variable is named this way. A collection variable is named this way. A formula is named this way. So when you're going through and you're working through all of your documentation, or you're handing it off to another developer, you're both speaking the same language. Everybody's speaking English, so we all understand it. And then documentation. Document everything. It's really easy just to do it right from day one and continually do it throughout the entire process. Don't wait till the last day to go back and document everything. I'm still learning that one. Old dog, new tricks, it's not working. So continually document throughout the process. And the last one, don't be a jerk. Just remember that people are people. Empathize with them. I'm going to say the A word. Don't be an asshole. Lost the bet. And just kidding. There's actually 11 principles for Abby. Got all the way through it, and I was like, shoot, I forgot that last one. Sometimes the answer is no. Remember the word. Use the word. Sometimes the answer is no. People have to be okay with that. You are the expert in what you're doing, so people look to you for the right answer. Right answer isn't always yes. And don't go back to your manager and say, well, she said I can say no to everything, because that's not true. Use no when it's appropriate, but make sure you know it. Know when to use it, know how to use it, stand behind it. Good. Okay, summarizing Abby's principles. Communication. Clear, concise communication. Be open and communicate. Be transparent. If you let people into kind of your documentation or your business requirements, let them see that information, they're going to be more likely to buy into what you're selling. And remember, we're building software. It's not rainbows and unicorns. Salesforce has limitations and things that we have to work around. So making sure that you understand that as a developer, and also that your users know that this is software. They're going to have to do inputs to get outputs. Unfortunately, I can't have a system that goes and sells for you, because if I did, and I'd make millions of dollars, actually probably millions. And then keep it stupid simple. Make everything in layman's terms so they understand what you're saying. I can get really in the weeds and talk about super technical master data management processes and data stores and all of these things. And we'd probably get 10 minutes into the conversation and your eyes would glass over and you'd be like, I don't know. Making sure that it's so stupid simple that they can understand it when they're ready to understand it. And then be a ladder, not a roadblock. Be a partner to the business. Be willing to share in their frustrations and their problems and be a part of the solution. And document everything. You're going to thank yourself later. The next person who takes your job later is going to thank you as well. Document it all. And then if it's not usable, it's worthless. Get feedback consistently from the users and your stakeholders about what it is you're building, making sure that it's right, making sure that it meets the needs of the business. And then last one, it's okay to say no. It's always okay. Questions? Oh God, Joseph.
So like there's so much here. You're not like a Salesforce architect at that level. I feel like that I can incorporate into what I'm doing as an admin. It feels like so much of this is like, oh, playing checkers, Abby's playing chess. I feel like I'm so glad you focused on the people aspect, because so many of us are like, I like building things and feel like we're doing it in a bubble, but so much of what you're doing is so people focused. Yes. How did you know that an architecture job was right for you? Because it might not be for some of us.
Good question. I think it became apparent to me when I didn't agree with the direction people were taking Salesforce. And so I knew that I wanted to be someone who had Salesforce experience, who could help drive the conversation in the correct direction and make those decisions, not for today, but 3 and 4 and 5 years from now, making sure that we're going, like that we're all going in the right direction, and that I speak the language and understand the platforms and all of our technology to take it in that right direction. So it was basically born out of me being a control freak and not wanting anybody to have decisions that I don't agree with. So, but it is a challenge because I didn't realize being an architect was about being technical, but it was more about being strategic and driving conversation and driving the usage of the platform in the right direction. Harry's agreeing. He's like, yeah, half my day is telling people don't do that. Any other questions? Okay.
Online, we have feedback. Fabulous presentation. Thank you. That was from
Dana.
Dana.
It was very good.
A couple of thoughts that I had related to that. Fantastic, by the way. I agree with the online comments. I love the cultivate trust piece that you mentioned. That is so important. I think as a consultant, if you don't have the people's trust, or if you try to fake it, they'll see through it.
They will.
They'll see through it, and they'll see through it. If you try to fake it, they'll see through it as well. Don't be afraid to say I don't know.
Yes.
That's. I'd rather tell somebody that than to try to fake it and hope that I'm right.
Well, and it's more like, I don't know yet. It's not that you don't know.
Let me go find out.
You will go find out and scour the internet to find the answer or ask the right person. And then you'll know going forward.
I also like the way that throughout your entire presentation, it was about the bigger picture and understanding that. And that's one of the things that's so easy for us to just kind of put our Salesforce blinders on and think, oh, that's just simple. I can do that little piece. And not take into consideration the impact of that is really, really good. I just took some notes as you were going through it. So because you said a lot of things, it's like, oh, this is awesome. Knowing your customer.
Mhm.
I refer to it sometimes as knowing my audience. And if you're walking in to say like an executive suite, you're not going to be talking about flows and components that you just don't. You have to know your audience, know what is the level of information they're looking for. And that's really key. And you brought that, I think, throughout your entire presentation, is understanding that piece of it. And then I like at the end, you did say it's okay to say no. I agree. And then you came back around and you said, be a ladder, not a roadblock, because it's really easy to just say no. But if you're saying no without an alternative approach, or where you can present another way to do it, it's really easy to be the roadblock that somebody looks at and says, "Oh crap, I've got to work with them again." So don't be the roadblock. Okay to say no.
Yes.
But also okay to redirect where you can.
We do have a question online from Dana. What do you recommend how to get into an architecture role if you have the background of other systems such as Microsoft Dynamics and NetSuite, but only a couple years of Salesforce? Is it best to concentrate on certifications?
No, absolutely not. So the best way is, trying to get yourself into those strategic conversations and get the people to buy into that you are the expert and you understand the applications. I own Marketo. I'll be owning NetSuite. I don't have a ton of experience in NetSuite, but I am an enterprise architect. So therefore, I need to understand more of what the capabilities are of the system and not so much how to develop in the system. So you don't have to be super technical. Carissa's more technical than me. Terry's more technical than me. It's understanding what it can do and how it can do it more than how you actually build the tool. Because you are not going to be looked at as a person who needs to build it. You have to have the vision and the strategy on how to get there.
Yeah, 100%. That was a great question. Any other questions on that topic? All of you ready to go be architects?
Do it.
It is a lot of fun to look at all of this stuff and more, but that strategic approach. I feel like a little bit sometimes as with my role, with what I do, that I'm having to rely a lot more on my team of people who actually do the work day in, day out, that do the builds. And it's like it's really easy to start to feel a little bit like I'm losing some of that knowledge because I'm not doing the builds. And that's just a maturity standpoint. I remember in my corporate days when I moved from being a developer into management and into the leadership side, it was that same transition. It's like, oh, if I let go of it, then I'm no longer valuable, but your value changes in a different way. And so don't be afraid of those kinds of transitions. You'll have them throughout your career, hopefully. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Carissa. She's going to talk to us about Omni Channel. And so take it away.
All right, cool. I'm gonna stand up at the podium and feel, take what you like.
I also learned that you like to cuss, evidently.
Oh, yes.
So that was new.
It's a problem.
Don't worry, I slacked my team what the alley was. So I know Terry asked earlier who had, Zoom update changed and I can't just share.
Did I need to make
I was trying to, no, I'm a host, so I can. I wanted to only share Google Chrome and apparently I can share my desktop. So this will be fun. Okay.
Do you want me to continue to Slack you through the presentation?
Oh yeah, totally. That'll be great. That'll be great. It's okay. Let's hope no one slacks me anything inappropriate. Okay. It'll be fine. Where's the Abby? Don't you dare. Today you learned how Abby learned to keep her notifications on a separate screen. That's okay. Okay. So I was going to do slides and realized that I would have like 2 slides. So I'm not doing slides. I know Terry asked earlier if anyone in the room was using Omni Channel. Do we have anyone online who uses Omni Channel?
We do use Omni Channel.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, so Tina uses Omni Channel. Anybody else? No? Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to guess that all of you have customers in some fashion, like actual customers, like your business does something that interacts with people outside of your business. Like Abby was saying, our customers are our users, they're our coworkers, but our businesses all, or our nonprofits all have customers of some fashion that we have to interact with. And most of the time, those people need to talk to us and our CS teams about stuff. And what that can mean in Salesforce is that we have cases traditionally. Fun fact, cases used to be part of Sales Cloud. Who knew? I did, because I used to only have Sales Cloud. So
aren't they still?
I think technically they're still part of Sales Cloud, yes. But it's just weird because they're a service thing. Anyway, so what can happen with interacting with customers is you have people like me who detest talking on the phone. I'm not going to call you. I'm probably going to do an online chat if I can. If I can't, I'm probably going to text you. And I'm going to find any way I can to avoid actually speaking. Because while I pretend that I'm good with this, yeah, phones are not my friend. I'm a millennial. I lean into that. No phone calls. So that being said, you have people that are going to try to communicate with you in a variety of different ways. And I don't know when Salesforce decided that they needed Omni Channel, but at some point they went, wouldn't it be great if we could find a way to intercept all the different ways that customers want to talk to us and standardize that for all the people sitting inside our businesses that have to respond to it? Mind blown. What if we could do that? So Salesforce did, and it's called Omni Channel. And if you need to set it up in an org, it's relatively easy to do. So that was my super quick spiel on what Omni Channel is. Any questions right now about Omni Channel? Do we know relatively what its goal is?
How much does it cost?
$0 because it's part of Service Cloud. Sorry, you didn't know it's part of Service Cloud. All right, I'm currently in Service Setup. And if you didn't know that was a thing, today you learned. And you get there by clicking on the cog, and instead of clicking Setup, you click on Service Setup. Most of the stuff is relatively the same. It's really just more geared towards making it a little easier to set up service-specific stuff. So I'm going to close out of the chat window so I can actually see the whole screen. All right, and one of the neat things about how you implement a Salesforce org now compared to when I did my first Salesforce implementation in 2013 is that you have these little flows you can use. So if I wanted to set up Omni Channel, which I'm going to do right now, I can click on the little view all recommended setup and I can type in Omni Channel. Okay. And so as this little widget tells me, it's going to help me find the most qualified support people for whatever thing is coming in. So that could mean that I am doing online chat using Salesforce chat, or I think you can also probably do it with bring your own chat. You can do it with bring your own voice. So you can also route phone calls too using Omni Channel. It's wild.
That's not free though.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, bring your own voice does have a cost
on top of the VoIP provider.
Correct. Okay. You know, but yes. So like a base Omni Channel setup is probably mostly going to be routing cases, and that's like super base. What you get out of the box with Salesforce is automatic case routing. You can also use it with chats. That's how I've used it before with cases and chats. So if you have someone do a pre-chat form and they say, I'm having an issue with this particular topic, subject, product, depends on your industry, how you're going to have that configured. You can have like your support agents tagged specifically to either handle those as queues or as skills. So you can route things based on skills or by queue. Kind of depends on how you're feeling or how your org's set up and a lot of other things. I should also preface, I'm not an Omni Channel expert. I've just implemented it before and think it's cool. So please don't ask me hard-hitting questions. Okay. Moving on. We'll click start. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is create a queue. We'll just call this tier 1 support and hope that we don't already have one of those. That was probably what it told me to use. It's fine. We'll just use what it suggested. And we're going to say that Carissa and Terry both need to be in this queue. Perfect. Okay, so then it's giving me like the suggested routing configurations, and it's telling me how to prioritize these. So maybe I want to prioritize chat first, and I want to prioritize messaging. So, not 12. Second. Also, if you want a fun little tip, if you do one of these guys, I don't know if it'll work here, but this is your fun Salesforce tip. If you have to order things, if you just make it 2 digits, now it's letting you just slot other things in the middle. In case you haven't heard that before, now you know. Okay. Do I have to create the wording here? Probably. I'll make this 5. I don't know if I need 0 there. I know. Okay, so this is where I set how much work I'm allowed to give each person. So right now it said that each individual item is 5 points, and my agents are allowed 20 points total. So for cases, this means each case is 5 points, and each person can then have 4 cases. So this is how you help utilize this across multiple stuff. Like you could also have chat. So maybe a chat is 1 point and a case is 5 points or something like that. And that's how you're going to balance that load. That would probably be a more complex implementation. Most of the time you just have like these 3 people are going to handle our chats. Everybody else is just doing cases. That's kind of the baby stuff. Like Abby was telling us about iterative processes and MVPs. Like MVP of Omni Channel is basic, and then we expand it out as we grow. We'll click next. Now it's going to do some stuff. Probably for a while. So, oh, look at that. I don't know why it's telling me to continue in Process Builder, because we don't do Process Builders anymore. We do Flow. So now it's just configured my Omni Channel, and I didn't really have to do anything other than name some stuff. So there's a lot of like backend things that are a little more finite, but this can get really fun to play with. I highly recommend doing a dev org and turning it on and setting yourself up as an agent. You can do like a little chat to yourself and have a conversation with yourself or your best friend, whatever. I don't care. And then you can really explore this when you get into flows, where there are actually pre-built flows for Omni Channel to do the routing. So you can have this that we did where we told Salesforce to just create a routing configuration and do it that way. If you had a super complex org with lots of different channels that people were coming in through, you could actually do that all in a flow and have your flow do all of your routing across all of your channels, looking at your skills, looking at your queues, however you want to do it, you can do that. And then what this looks like from an end user perspective, which I probably should have figured out, it just shows up across the bottom of their screen where they set themselves as available. And then the work will just like pop up and be like, hey buddy, here's this case, you want to take it? And if they don't, then it goes to the next person. So it just kind of goes in and really helps your people focus on it. I did this at my last company where I had people who cherry picked. So they just had a list view of cases and they were like, I'm going to do this one and this one and this one and this one. And they did like the 4 easiest ones because that's how they were paid. So if you take away that ability and instead you say, no, you get this one. And if you reject it, your manager's going to see that you said, I don't want it. So that can be really helpful if you're having that sort of struggle with your CS teams, if they're just cherry pickers. And that is all I have about Omni Channel. Any questions? No. Okay, great. I probably talked really fast, but that's fine. Oh,
I just want to say, like, for that cherry picking part, we have it where you don't have a choice but to get the case. The reps will get it, and you don't have a choice. You don't accept it or not. You just get it. So you work what you get. So
yes, there's a lot of configuration options here. So you can let people reject work, or you can't. I think it's probably more common to not let them reject a case, but you can let them reject a chat. That may make more sense if it's a chat that they're not qualified for. I would see that behavior, or they're about to step away for a break or something.
Right. Yep.
And Matt online says allowing separate values for how much work a phone call is versus a chat can allow you to handle more work. A chat session typically has long pauses between back and forth, so your agents can handle more chats than phone calls because of that. Cool. Any additional questions, comments? Awesome. Go sit down.
Let me share my screen again. We'll go look at how the survey turned out. And
Are we supposed to do it like now?
yep,
Can we do it like,
you can do it later. It's fine. But let's take. Well, at least
The one time we punish you for being here in person. We've already had 19 responses though.
that's awesome.
So thank you to those of you who didn't listen to the meeting and instead did the survey.
Yeah, there is that. Survey response. That came through okay?
Yeah.
Topics that you're interested in. I did find this kind of interesting earlier. The further ones to the right are the ones that you're most interested in. So Salesforce, just basic platform type topics, it's kind of neutral along there. It's kind of my interpretation. Architectural designs, that's exactly what we did today. That this sort of topic, pretty high favorabilities. Requirements gathering, not quite so much. Project management. Automation was rather high, so evidently there's still a lot of interest in some of that side of things. Career development, certifications and training, user experience. Those are all topics that we've had here recently, I think. So that's good to know. Reports and dashboards, system security. Anybody like system security? Yeah, there's a few of us weird ones that it's like, that's pretty cool. Data management, integrations, and app exchange products, community and networking connections. So that's just us being together. That's being family. And then the last one was AI automations or Einstein, which is also fairly high. And I'll be honest, that's one that I am not that solid in myself. So I'm kind of curious in that one too. So if you're an AI expert and know that and are interested in talking.
We are piloting Einstein GPT.
Are you?
So that's in Q3.
That would be, love to learn more about that one. Other topics, things like user adoption. I didn't think about that one. I should have put that as one of the options. I wasn't sure what was meant by commercial effectiveness features, also of great interest. So if you wrote that, let me know what you meant by that one. Debug tactics, I thought that was an awesome one. How many like doing the debugging of your flows? That's always interesting.
I would love to know if that's debugging flows or reading actual debug.
That's
Debug logs.
Debug
logs, because those are two very different.
Yes, they are.
Different skill
They are
sets.
different. Yeah, that is true. FSC and Marketing Cloud use cases was listed. And then when we look at the different clouds people were interested in, we've got those listed here. Sales Cloud, Experience Cloud was pretty high. And then we kind of did not really care much for the industry clouds. Which is good to know because I've actually thought a lot about trying to introduce those. So the fact that that's something that you're not interested in, that's I'm glad to know that. Nonprofit, Revenue Cloud. I forget about Revenue Cloud. Salesforce add-ins and DevOps tools are things that you're interested in the data cloud. Our skill level, and for those that took the survey, pretty high. That's for us is sometimes the hardest piece is knowing how to balance those of you that are brand new to Salesforce with those of you who have been in it forever. How do we feed both of you? It's always a challenge to try to figure that out and find that right balance. So that's super helpful. You don't really care who you hear from as long as they're good. I was interested in your local leader side of it too. I like hearing from people like Abby, those that we know, that we touch and feel on a regular basis, not literally, but figuratively.
But that means you'll need to be willing to give a presentation.
Yes.
That's the flip side. When we hear from local people, you got to be willing to talk.
Yes, because I honestly get tired of hearing myself do this. So, and I'm sure that.
Yeah, I would love to not have to talk at a presentation. That'd be cool. If you want to do a lunch and learn, let us know. We'll let you.
Yes, absolutely. The Salesforce project managers, they're always interesting when you're interested in some of the roadmap things that are happening, because they can tell you things that I'm not allowed to always say if I know. But So that's always nice to get them. I do enjoy that. That was like when we did the user management stuff that's coming, where I lost her name now that I had to present for that. I've had several Salesforce MVPs come primarily because I know a lot of them, so that they're low hanging fruit, and we are frequently asked to speak at different user group meetings, so they're almost always ready with something. So just personally, that's an easy one for us to get speakers for. As far as our structure, our meeting structure, where we do the quarterly hybrids, and then on the off quarters, we do the lunch and learns. That seems to be working well for everybody. That works well for us because the hybrid meetings are definitely more difficult to put together than the simple lunch and learn. So that's good. And for those of you new, I don't know if that was yours, no, but wow, we're glad. Yep. If you didn't know, we do these in-person meetings, hybrid meetings once every quarter. So, and then on the off months, we will do a 1 hour lunch and learn that's online only. Most of the lunch and learn ones are geared toward trying to teach. And ideas for why you keep coming to the user group meeting, network learning, content, the people. These are all fantastic responses. I appreciate those.
Yeah,
I know, right? Shout out to yes. Did you see that? Yes. Right here. Look at that option right there. But Joseph knocks it out, and he's not even up front. And he still knocks it out of the park. He is awesome. I told him when I came in today, it's like I need some Joseph time, because there's nothing like Joseph. He's just fantastic. He's worth going to the nonprofit user groups if for no other reason. Then you get to hang out with Joseph. So, one thing that we can improve. We've got some feedback there. A lot of you just were again saying very, very positive about what we're doing. More introductions. Is that for whoever wrote that one? Is that introducing each other, getting to know each other? Is that introducing new products? Let me know on that. Be curious. Each other. Yeah. Okay. And Salesforce swag. Are you interested in Salesforce swag?
This is the first time I've ever seen it more lean towards no.
I love the no personally.
Only because you have to store it all.
Only because I have to keep it all. And for those that are online, when you get stuff, I have to ship it to you. It's always a little bit more of a challenge for me. And I'm very slow at getting it done. I do have some swag up here. And we do have a new budget for swag. So if there's specific things you're interested in, I still have one shirt that we've had for like 2 years probably. This is the only one left. It's a large if you're interested in that t-shirt. I also have this cute little 18-month-old little onesie if you have a little onesie person in your life. I don't think it'll fit Joseph, but
put it on his arm.
If you have somebody, this is just it's adorable. And I do have a couple of our books. They are branded for the Trailhead community, which is nice. And an architecture specific, it's got the elephant. You want one of those little things if you have 1,000 of them.
so much.
And then we have ones that is also, these are your cups. What do they call these? It's these kinds of things. Tumblers. Yeah, so a couple different styles of tumblers if you'd like those. And I've got really cute little earbuds. Yeah, little Astros if you're interested. I've only got one. There's one left. So if you want it. And I do have a couple post-it card things or post-it notes up here as well. If you are a ranger, and we didn't talk about you last time we were together, raise your hand, because we do have little ranger pens. Are you a double ranger, triple, single rangers?
I think all of the nonprofit group also has the pens that we've been giving them.
You've got one? Yes. I will give you guys.
Your nonprofit group has one.
Kevin, the 4-star ranger.
Yeah. And for those of you who were a part of the last group, I think I mentioned it at the beginning of our session. I will get those shipped out to you. I do have them now. But yeah, I've got up to 4 stars if you're.
Well, Kevin Online will take one.
Kevin Online, send me your address, PM that to me so that I have that. Unless you want everybody to know your address.
Oh, sorry. His last name is Hamilton. And I'm just saying Kevin Online. We know it's
So,
my bad.
I also have Ranger socks if you're a socks person. So those are options too if you'd like.
I did have one comment on whoever said they want to see actual uses of Salesforce. That means you have to get other people in our user group to be willing to do a show and tell, which we've done in the past. But y'all are afraid to get up there and talk in front of people, and you need to not be. So if I can do it and Abby can do it, y'all can do it.
Yes. Amen. I'll just go with that.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes. Very good. All right. We are ahead of schedule. And so we will easily be out of the room by the time that we're supposed to be. If you'd like to hang out and chat, we will be out here. Feel free to introduce yourself to each other if you haven't met each other yet. Those of you who are online, any questions or anything that we can help you with? We've got time to talk through some things. We can do a quick MVP office hour type thing if you want. What's the problem that you have? How can we help you solve it? If you have any thoughts, go at once. Unmute fast because I'm going to shut it down otherwise. All right, thank you all. Very good. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next month online and get ready for Dreamforce, get ready for Midwest Dream, and those are all coming.